Today, I'm going to be taking you through the process of applying for a mortgage. And I've already covered this off in previous episodes, but I want to make sure that it's clear and you understand how simple the process actually is and should be for you as a client of a mortgage broker and for you buying a house. Now, mortgages aren't straightforward. There's lots of complexities with it, but the reason that you use a mortgage broker is to take care of the majority of these complexities. And a really good mortgage broker will be doing all of that in the background. The most difficult thing that you should be doing is gathering the documents. That is the hardest thing that you should be doing as a client of a broker when looking to buy a house. But what I'll do is I'll take you through the process from start to finish, including my 5-step plan I've already spoken about on previous episodes. So understanding the process of applying for a mortgage is the first thing, and understanding what the process actually is. And I'll take you through every mortgage broker does it different. I've broken the process down into 5 key steps. Step 1 is to make sure that you can afford the houses that you're looking at. There's no point in you getting out there and putting offers in properties and houses that are way out of your reach. So step 1 is to make sure that you can actually afford it. And by that, I mean afford the monthly payments. Because if you can afford the monthly payments, and I don't mean what the bank's telling you can afford, can you actually afford them? And if you can afford them and you've done that, that's the first thing that you should be doing. Once you've established that you can afford the monthly costs, what you can then do is you can then see what the lenders are willing to give you. So step 2 is to check what the lenders are actually willing to give you for your mortgage. So that could vary from lender to lender, depending on how your income's structured, depending on how your debts are structured. And that's what a mortgage broker would do for you, is they'd place your mortgage application at this stage with a lender that's usually offering you the most amount of money and making sure that it's going to be affordable for you. Once you've done that, and once you know what the monthly cost is, and once you know how much you can actually borrow, it's then at this stage you should be considering a mortgage in principle. And the mortgage in principle is when a lender's looked at your credit report and decided that a mortgage is something that they would consider giving you. Now, it's not a guarantee, but it is a consideration. Now, different mortgage brokers do things differently. So if you are a mortgage broker and you're tuning in and you think that you should be out looking for a house first, that's fine. You've got your own process. But I think and I believe that from a client perspective, if you're looking to buy a house, getting the mortgage in principle before you're looking at houses is going to be key, and it's going to avoid disappointment for you. From a mortgage broker's point of view, it means that they're maybe doing a little bit of work at the start when ultimately they might not get any business from it. That I can understand where the point's coming from. And I can also understand the argument that you need to know the property that you're buying, the property type, and all of these kind of things that can all come into play. But ultimately, I've found that by getting the mortgage in principle before starting to view houses, it puts you into a stronger position when it comes to negotiating. But once you've got that mortgage in principle, you've done 3 out of the 5 steps. You're 2/3 of the way there, pretty much. There's only 2 things left that you need to do. Step 4 is find the right property. So find a property that fits your budget, fits the monthly costs, fits what the lenders are willing to give you, and is within that agreement in principle tolerance when it comes to the deposit that they're looking at. And once you've done that, you're then moving on to the application process where you're gathering documents and applying for the mortgage. At that stage, you're pretty much handing everything over to the mortgage broker. So the mortgage broker will then chase the lender, they'll contact solicitors, and they'll do all of the legwork to get you that offer as quickly as possible. Now, there might be a little bit of back and forth if a lender asks for additional documents that they've maybe not got, or they might come back asking for questions if they've picked something up in the background. But on the whole, at that stage, you're passing ownership over. And that's the 5 key steps. Check your affordability, check the mortgage lender's willing to give you it, get your mortgage in principle sorted, find your property, and apply for your mortgage. Sounds super simple when it's broken down like that, and that's the way that you need to think about it, because the mortgage broker in the background, they will be doing a lot more work, but that's what they're there to do. So once you fully understand the process and you've got that down, it's key to have a think about the next steps, and that is preparing to apply for the mortgage. So preparing for that fifth and final step. And to do that, you'd be looking to gather documents, make sure that you've got the right solicitor in place and that kind of thing. So documents that mortgage brokers, and again, I've done an episode on this as well, but you're looking at things like ID, bank statements, pay slips. Depends on the format that you're needing to supply it in. Depending on the lender, you might need to supply more bank statements, you might need to supply more income. On the whole, that's generally what you would need, and your mortgage broker will keep you right as part of that application process. Also, at this stage, if you haven't done it yet, you should be considering your solicitor. Now, choosing the right solicitor is going to be key, and that can make a huge difference in the process as well. And what I find in the solicitors that I tend to work alongside me. And what I mean by that is when I'm working and I'm submitting the application and chasing the lenders, they're gathering the documents that they need. They're starting the conveyancing process, starting the communication with the seller's solicitor in order to get you into the property as quickly as possible. And I choose solicitors that I want to work with on that basis, that they're going to work alongside me doing that, because I find that it makes a much slicker and a much streamlined service, because at the back end, you don't want to be finding out 2 weeks before entry that the solicitor hasn't started the conveyancing work yet. And then things can start cropping up if they start doing checks and searches that could end up delaying it. So I much prefer when solicitors are working alongside the process at the same time as me. And that's how I decide who I'm recommending to clients. But it doesn't mean that there aren't other solicitors out there that are good at what they do that don't follow that same method. Once you've done that, you're then essentially moving on to apply for the mortgage. And once that mortgage application's in, as I say, you're passing ownership really onto the mortgage broker. Now, depending on who the lender is will depend on the timescale. So if you're buying a new build and it's in December and you've got 2 weeks to get it turned around, you're looking at certain lenders that are going to be able to do that. There's lenders that you know that you wouldn't go to. There's lenders that you know that you would. And you would consider all of this, the broker would consider all of this when submitting the application. Typically speaking, though, I tend to find that an application, if it takes any longer than 4 weeks, you're looking at lenders that are a little bit more specialist or have asked a lot more questions. Typically speaking, mortgage applications are going to be done a lot sooner than that, unless there's problems arising. But that's kind of the mortgage application process. And when that mortgage offer comes in, before you complete on the mortgage, you're looking to make sure you've got things like your home insurance set up, buildings insurance set up, making sure that you have got your life insurance and all of these kind of things that you discussed way back at the start when submitting the mortgage application, making sure that these things are getting tied up and started when you conclude the missives. The reason that you're getting these policies started when you conclude missives is because that's when your risk starts. So when you've signed that contract, that's when your liability starts for that property. So life insurance, critical illness cover, get it started then. Income protection and income replacements maybe already been started, because that's a little bit different. And you're looking to get your buildings insurance set up at the same time. So I hope you found this useful, and don't forget to tune in for more useful information. Cheers.